What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you concerning Sugar Shane Mosley. Sugar Shane Mosley has been very vocal lately. He's made a few statements about, his predictions about boxing, and his opinions. Of course, everyone has one, and including the three-time champion. He mentioned that Mikey Garcia was stupid for going and facing Earl Spence at 147 pounds, two weight classes up from the weight class that he fought at previous. Okay, Mikey Garcia went from 135, and his last fight was a unification fight. And he beat Robert Easter, unanimous decision, and he wants to go. He wants to challenge himself, and so he called out Earl Spence. Of course, Earl Spence, agreed, accepted. So they're just really putting things together, and we'll see if that fight happens. But back to Mosley, he said it was stupid, and the reason he said it was stupid is because he never fought at that weight class, and of course, Sugar Shane Mosley did that same thing. He went from 135, the same weight class as Mikey Garcia, the same weight class that Mikey Garcia fought at. And he went from there and fought Oscar De La Hoya at 147. But he explained that, he was a bigger lightweight. And when he fought Oscar De La Hoya in the amateurs, he was like 139, and Oscar was a lot smaller because, Oscar didn't start at 147. He started, I believe, at 130. And, and he was just a bigger lightweight, that I understand. I understand that. But what I don't understand is why is that stupid? Because Mosley went on to say that, he always wanted to challenge himself. He always wanted to, he in his mind, he said in this interview that he really didn't want to feel comfortable being the undisputed or an undefeated fighter, rather, right? So, he thought about fighting Roy Jones and James Toney and, bigger guys, you know what I mean? He was just making examples of guys that he would fight just to challenge himself, you know what I mean? Because he knew that there's always someone that has your number. Now, I agree on that. But his other statements, he missed me with some of that because, it sounds ironic. You respect Mikey, like you said he does. He respects Mikey for doing what he's doing, his courageousness and trying to go up to that weight class, but it was dumb because Mikey Garcia, is a relatively small guy. I can understand that to a certain extent, but you got to remember something. Roy Jones Jr. went up many weight classes from 160. I think he started at 154, then 160, then, went on up and ascended to, super middleweight and, light heavyweight and heavyweight. So it can be done. So, he calls it stupid, but I would disagree. I think it's more of Mikey trying to, I think it's more of Mikey knows if he loses, that's just an already built-in excuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, you had no business up there anyway. What the hell are you doing up at 147 anyway? You never fought at 147. You know what I mean? Because it seems like to me that excuse is already built in if he loses. So it's already set. You know what I mean? So that's his cushion if he does, lose and get knocked out. But if he wins it all. He wins a lot of respect. But then you got to look at it like this. Floyd Mayweather, he commented and said that he cautioned Mikey also. And he says that Earl Spence is a tougher fight than Lomachenko, right? Well, I don't know. Because it seems like to me, that's just like Kell Brook not fighting, or Amir Khan not fighting Kell Brook and run up there and fight Triple G. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's more reverence, or it's more acceptable to take a loss from someone bigger than take a loss from someone that is more parallel with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, Loma is a smaller guy than Mikey Garcia, but, these guys have all fought in the same weight classes at one point. You know what I mean? So if they do fight each other, it would seem like to me these guys would be more parallel, in size rather than him fighting Errol Spence. Errol Spence is just something, it's almost like an experiment. You know what I mean? So yeah, if you go up there and get whooped, it's kind of like, oh well, you failed the experiment, but that doesn't really define you as a fighter. You just take a L. But it's like, if you lose to Lomachenko like that, it would be more of a documented loss. You know what I'm saying? Or a realistic loss that, hey, no, Loma went up there and beat you, because see, Loma's going up. So if you look at it like this, I'm looking at it because I did a parody with Terrence Crawford, right? Well, you got to do one with Lomachenko too, because Loma is coming from 126. Okay, and understand something about Loma. Loma is decorated like Olympian, like 2008, 2012. The dude is very, very gifted and talented. Okay, he's moving up. He's challenging himself. Okay, so you got to think if Loma goes up and challenges, and Mikey takes a fight with him, and Mikey loses, he loses a lot of credibility if you think about it. You know what I'm saying? Because Mike is like, nah, I don't think he can't take it to the body, and plus he got dropped by Linares, and that's why I don't think, I think I could easily beat him. But I mean, you understand that you haven't fought him yet. You catching him with a straight right like Linares did. I don't know if that would be the same thing, because, a guy like Loma adjusts, and he adjusted. And then what was the outcome of the Linares fight? It was a KO. Okay. So it makes sense to me if Mikey would take a fight with Errol Spence, because it's more acceptable for the loss, versus him to take a fight with a guy that's coming up from 126 to 130, then to 135, and you fight him at 135 and you lose. That's a real loss. So I know Mikey's like, nah, forget that. I'm not going to take that chance, because see, if he loses to Errol Spence, it really won't matter at that point, because he'll get accolades for just the attempt. You know what I mean? You get an A for effort, but no cigar. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, and then you go back down and fight Lomachenko, it won't be as big as a fight if it was, because you've lost your L at that point. But it's kind of like, oh well, it's like an invisible L. Well, he fought to Errol Spence, but nobody thought he was going to win that fight, especially if Errol Spence goes up there. He goes up there and Errol Spence annihilates him. And I don't think it's an impossible fight to lose. I think he can do it. You know what I mean? But again, the politics behind it, the reality of it is, Lomachenko would be that guy. If you fought Lomachenko and get beat by Lomachenko, he'll fall from the pound for pound rankings for sure. You know what I mean? Whereas if you fought Errol Spence is he's on the pound for pound, but he's just later on down the trough, right? So, and you lose to him, you won't lose as much credibility as fighting Lomachenko, and Lomachenko's camp, they still want that fight. And, and it's really up to Mikey. And I don't want to hear the Bob Arum thing. I don't want to hear that, because if Bob Arum has done many deals with, it's not as easy, but it can happen. He's had a fight with, when he had De La Hoya under the stable, De La Hoya fought Trinidad, he's negotiated with Don King. If Eddie Hearn can, and Frank Warren can get together and be in the same room, they can do it too. You know what I mean? So it can happen, man. It's just really who wants to fight. And it seems like to me, Mikey's avoiding that fight right now, because he knows if I lose that fight, I will lose my credibility. But if I fight Errol Spence and lose, no one really won't look upon me or look down on me because of it, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And being Earl a tougher fight, yeah, it'd probably be a tougher fight. But speaking of Floyd, if Mikey Garcia is a mid-range fighter, right? He doesn't fight good on the inside anyhow. We've seen that in the Easter fight. But I'll tell you this, if Mikey can fight and use some of what Kell Brook did, And Kell Brook just countered him, and kept him, and wrapped him up on the inside. If he's able to do that, he can, he can get him out of there. I mean, he can make it competitive. Now, it can't be one of those murky fights, because then Errol Spence is going to rip him to the body all night or forever, how long that lasts. He's going to head Mikey Garcia, and it's not going to be cool. You know what I mean? Mikey has to find a way, to keep Errol Spence off of him. And the only way I see is what Floyd did to Manny Pacquiao and tie him up. So if he's able to do that for 12 rounds, he might have a shot. Because Errol Spence is a kind of aggressive guy, kind of like a Southpaw Trinidad and mixed with Hagler. You know what I mean? So he's more like a tree chopping guy. So he rips body punches on the inside. He does it really well because he probes with his jab to get in. Okay. He just probes to get in. He might follow through with the left, but that's just to close the distance. So he comes in, and rips shots to the body. But anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself because the fight's not been officially made yet. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think about Mikey Garcia's decisions and Mosley's comments. Please subscribe, hit the bell icon, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.